Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today is an episode that's just going to be myself and Jennifer talking about some things that have been on our minds lately. And we want to dedicate today's episode to the people who are doing all of the work to try to maintain our rights that we do still currently have around abortion rights, healthcare rights, trans rights, all of the rights that are under attack right now and have been under attack for a very long time. There's been just this huge landslide victory for those who are fighting to take our rights away. So that said, I want to read the following. While Americans overwhelmingly support the right of an individual to make their own decisions about abortion, unfortunately, that right is no longer protected everywhere in the US. The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade on June 24th, 2022. Abortion is a basic healthcare need for the millions of people who can become pregnant. Everyone should have the freedom to decide what's best for themselves and their families, including when it comes to ending a pregnancy. This decision has dire consequences for individual health and safety and could have harsh repercussions for other landmark decisions. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. Even if you live in a state where abortion rights are upheld, access to safe medical procedures shouldn't be determined by location, and it shouldn't be the privilege of a small few. You can help by donating to local abortion funds. To find out where to donate for each state, visit donationsforabortion.com. That's the number 4. If you or someone you know needs help, or if you want to get more involved, here are 5 resources. 1, Shout Your Abortion is a campaign to normalize abortion. 2, Don't Ban Equality is a campaign for companies to take a stand against abortion restrictions. 3, abortion.cafe has information about where to find clinics. 4, PlanCpills.org provides early at-home abortion pills that you can keep in your medicine cabinet. And 5, choice.crd.co has a collection of these resources and more. We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word.
So Raquel.
Yes.
How are you?
I am worried. I am angry. I am frustrated. I'm incredibly stressed out. And I am furious. In a sense, we let this happen because so many people have been saying for so long that the right to an abortion is under attack. People have been saying that since Roe v. Wade was decided. People didn't listen. People sort of poo-pooed it. Oh, you're just being alarmist. Oh, you're just being a feminazi. I hate that phrase. You're just being Chicken Little, running around saying the sky is falling. Well, you know what? It's fallen now. It's been falling, and a huge chunk of it just fell and hit us all on the top of the fucking head. It doesn't stop there. In fact, Clarence Thomas said in his written opinion, this is in black and white on paper, and it's funny that I say black and white because here's a black man who's saying that all of these other things that are not explicitly stated in the Constitution are going to be under attack and are going to eventually be struck down. And well, guess what? Loving v. Virginia, which made it legal that people of different races, specifically Black people and white people, could marry legally, wasn't decided until 1967. That's only 2 years before you and I were born. 2 years. That's not that long ago. His own marriage is going to be under attack.
Yeah, which brings to question, why doesn't Clarence Thomas figure this out in his head? Or does he not care?
A, I think he doesn't care. B, I think he thinks that they aren't going to come after him because he's protected, because he's a Supreme Court justice and he's blah, blah, blah. He's on the inside because he's a justice and he's married to a white woman and he's rich and no.
So he thinks he's of the special chosen.
Yeah.
And
he's the magical Negro who, and if y'all don't know that Negro phrase,
I haven't heard it before, but looking at him, it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Because he's so naive.
It's a phrase basically kind of meaning, oh, you're the special one that's accepted. You're the one that's okay. We like you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but doesn't he see that he's put in that position to help accomplish this? And as soon as it's accomplished, they will have no need for him anymore. He will just be.
I honestly believe that he thinks
that
he is so important to the cause, his cause, their cause, that of course they'll never get rid of him. He's special. He's the magical Negro. I mean,
he doesn't see how the oppression of one affects the oppression of all.
Nope.
He doesn't see that no man can be free until we're all free.
Nope.
He thinks he's the special one. He's the chosen one. And the same with Amy.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
Yep.
The same with her, because she doesn't see it either. Doesn't she have a ton of children? Some of them must be girls.
Yeah. She has a bajillion children.
Right. Doesn't she have a bajillion children? Like, does she not want equal rights for her female children? That's effed up, Amy. Amy, that's effed up, Amy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure there's gonna come a day when one of her children is gonna grow up and is gonna be like the biggest, like most liberal, far left person.
I mean, you do see that already with some of the senators' children speaking out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do see that already. So this episode is supposed to be another recap on what's on our minds. We know that this issue is paramount on everyone's minds. It's like the thing, but there are other things going on in our own personal lives as well. So we're going to take some time to talk about those today, right? That was our goal?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
So what do you want to talk about?
Most of mine, actually all of mine, are kind of national, international things, right? Because I feel like these things are, or very well could affect me personally. I talked on the show before, I am postmenopausal, so I more than likely will not get pregnant.
It would be hard for that to happen.
It would be really, really difficult. It would take an act of science, which I am not going to participate in.
An act of science or God, as we know.
That is true. Yeah, I'm pretty sure God knows I don't want babies and I should not have them.
So you're a better person than I am, because almost everything I spoke to talk about today was personal. So
no, that's
you're
totally
going
cool.
national and global, and I'm going personal. So this should be an interesting episode.
Yeah, no, but that's cool though, because that's just where our heads are right now. And
my head's a flipping mess right now.
Yeah, mine is too. I don't think anybody wants to be inside there right now.
It's funny because yesterday I was feeling on top of the world. I felt like I had it together. I was in my groove and I was like, yeah, things are coming along. And then today I feel sort of knocked off my kilter a little bit. It's interesting how those waves can happen. What's going on is that, and I've been trying to think about the way to talk about this so that number one, it doesn't hurt anybody, and number two, so that it is understood that this is going on in my head. That doesn't make it a fact, and that doesn't make it everyone's universal truth.
Okay.
So you all know that, and you know specifically, Raquel, that I decided to go for the school board.
Yeah.
For Milan, and I put in my application early. I've been on vacation the last couple of weeks, and while on vacation, some local women contacted me. They wanted to meet. And so on Friday, I went to meet with them. They asked me a bunch of questions about my candidacy. It made me really think about the fact that I didn't really have a platform and that I would need a platform. But they had an agenda, and they wanted to talk me out of running, and they want to push forward their own candidate. I'm feeling lots of different ways about this. So I listened to what they had to say. The interesting thing is I had a lot of relief around that. I left that meeting and I thought, okay, if I don't run, that would be kind of awesome. So I asked them to set up another meeting for this morning to meet their candidates, because there's 2 open positions on the board. We had a little meet in a neighbor's yard this morning, 6 women. We introduced ourselves. We talked about who we were, why we were involved, why we wanted to be involved. And here's what I told them. I told them my name. I told them about my children. I told them about my sister's children. And I said, I didn't script any of this. This is just what came out of my mouth in the moment. I said, I really don't want to run for school board. I don't.
Interesting.
The only reason I threw my name in the hat is because I was reading everything I could get my hands on about the elections. You and I talk all the time. I started to read some stuff about Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are running people for all offices. And they specifically mentioned the school board, that they're getting their candidates in on the school board at the city level, and then pushing their candidates through to push their agenda through. And I thought, well, I can't let that happen. I'm not super connected in my community. I've been working outside of the community for 16 years and driving in and out. It's a bedroom community. So I thought, if not me, then who? Right? That's a lot of the reason why I ran, or I put my name, I'm not actually running, why I put my name on the ballot. So I did that a month or so ago. After I said this, I felt a certain amount of relief, because here I am sitting next to 2 women who really do want to run. And so they tell their little story and they talk about it. And I asked the one very specifically, I say quietly to her, do you really want to run? And she says, I thought about it. I talked to my family. I talked to my wife, and we've thought over what the consequences can be. And I really do want to run. And I thought,
Oh, good.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly what I thought. I thought, okay, good. I feel good about supporting her. But I have such mixed feelings, because this is going to sound a little weird. And this is the part where I don't want to hurt anybody. But I feel like there is this thing in not our local community, but our community in general, of stifling people's voices. And I feel a little bit like my voice was stifled because I'm loud, I'm aggressive, I have all kinds of stuff over my social media. One of the first comments was, are you willing and able to turn down your social media? And,
Yikes.
yeah, and my initial response to that question is, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Do you know how long it took me to fucking get my voice back? Oh, hell no.
Right. Good for you.
And
Good for you for saying that.
Well, I didn't say it so aggressively to them, because they're very nice women with a cause, and they're trying to find a good candidate to support for the board. But what makes me a little sad about it is not that I'm not the right candidate. I really never had my ego involved in this run.
Okay.
But what makes me sad is that to be an ideal candidate, as a woman, we have to muffle our voices. We can't wear our anti-racism shirt anywhere we want to.
Or a shirt that says vasectomies prevent abortions.
Excellent. We can't do that. We can't have a podcast and say all the things that we want to say, and we can't put signs in our yard. And I didn't do a whole lot of research into the school board before I decided to run. Again,
Yeah.
I decided to run because of what you and I talk about all the time and about putting our money where our mouth is. And I felt it was the right thing to do. And honestly, if it just connects me with a bunch of like-minded women, then it was time well spent.
Good.
But I feel very sad about the fact that an ideal candidate cannot still be a woman who has a loud voice. We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to say this isn't right.
Mhm.
I get that, that's probably valid. I probably would lose. So, I'm not worth backing because I would lose. And that has me reeling a little bit today, not for these women, because I actually love what the women are doing. They're doing what the Republicans have done all along. They're finding the right candidate.
Yeah.
They're getting together to back them together as a force. I'd like to be part of that force. They're trying to make sure the ballot is not diluted. That's why they want me to remove my name, because any of my potential votes will take away from their candidate, right? And help push through. Do you know school board's supposed to be nonpartisan, but let's be for real.
Nothing is nonpartisan in this world anymore.
No,
at least not in this country.
People have an agenda for sure. And I learned a lot about the process, quite frankly, in the few short weeks I was involved. But I think this is one of those cases where nothing is a simple emotion. I feel a huge level of relief. The appointment to school board in Michigan is 6 years.
Whoa.
6 years.
I didn't realize that.
Neither did I. I probably wouldn't have put in my paperwork had I known that.
But the good thing is that you learned so much from just being in that experience for that amount of time. And who knows where this is going to lead for you.
Yeah. I also kind of wanted to do the race. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a competitor. Again, here's the thing. I can't run because I don't actually want to do any of the work. I'm just being honest. I do not want to go to the school board meetings. I'll probably go as a spectator. I do not want to go. I don't want to do that work.
Will you do the work to support whoever the candidate is that you like?
I would love to do that work.
Then that's your superpower.
Here's the thing that really bugs me about it. And this is no offense to those women. I think they're doing amazing work. I think they are being smart. They are planning for the future. They are working to get
strategic.
They're being strategic. And the fact that they contacted me was actually very, very smart, because I could have diluted their ballot. What makes me really sad about this whole thing is here fucking Trump could get up there and say anything about anybody, and his party didn't bat an eye. But I have a few things to say that should be said, and I use the word fuck, and I say things that, no real lady should be saying.
Ugh. Quote unquote lady.
I mean, I guess it just really bothers me that I've never professed to be a lady, and that kind of, that potentially keeps me out of politics.
That's a damn shame, because there are so many people, and this is something that I've worried about for years now, is that there are a lot of people who can do a lot of good in politics and maybe want to get involved in politics, but don't, because of some of the same things that you're talking about. And because when people do run, their lives are picked apart.
Yeah,
their
totally.
families are subjected to god awful intrusions.
And
so
honestly,
it's keeping a lot of people out of the process that I think could do a lot of good.
Yeah, that's where I feel the grief today. Honestly, it's a tight race. If there are any crossovers in party, you could potentially dilute the ballot for you. It could come down to 50 votes. It could come down to 10 votes. I was really happy to learn that we had people who were interested in this in my town. So there is that. Yeah. Good. So that's my first one. What's your first one?
This is something that just keeps coming up over and over and over in a myriad of ways. And I'm not professing to be perfect about this. We as a society, we as a country don't know our history at all. You know, I mean,
Yeah. No, we don't.
we don't know the real history of our country. We don't know the history of the people who were here before we all got here. We don't know the true history of slavery and what it was all about and what it actually was and all of the systems that resulted out of it. We don't know as a society and as a country history in general, because people are so upset about somebody's feelings being hurt and somebody being made to feel bad, and oh, we don't want somebody to know about this, that, and the other thing. It just gets stifled, so nobody does anything and nobody learns. I'm paraphrasing. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. Guess what, people? It's true. And it breaks my heart that, first off, in school, even when we were in school, we were getting a very concentrated, watered down, incorrect version of lots of stuff. Not to mention there were lots of things that we just weren't taught for whatever reason, lack of time, lack of interest, lack of support, whatever, lack of whatever, right?
Desire
Lots
not to, more like their desire not to teach us the true history.
Exactly, yes. Now people aren't even taught what we were taught. Little kids aren't taught what we were even taught. So they're learning even less than we did. But now people are banning books. They're trying to ban learning the ability to think about things. They're banning any sort of imagination and any desire and ability to learn about things that we're not learning in school. That is so upsetting to me. There are still people who don't really understand what slavery was and the effects of it that are still with us today. There are people who don't understand what the Holocaust was and what in our
They're Holocaust deniers now.
Right, exactly. And the US's role in it, in that for the longest time, we wouldn't allow Jews from Europe to come into the country. And then when we did let them in, we only let in a certain number. So people don't know. These are things that people don't know. Granted, yes, I have learned things on my own. I've read things, I've listened to people who know more than I do on these issues. I think it's because that quest for knowledge and respect for other people who know more than I do was nurtured by my family, by my mom, by my aunts, by the people who helped raise me.
It was a family value.
Yes, yes. Education and knowledge and understanding of people and things and ideas that are different from your own, those were valued.
Right.
In my
That's
home.
A family value we should stand up for.
And we don't as a society. We just don't. There's so many things that we don't know and that kids are not being taught. They're not being compelled and encouraged to learn these things, to read a book, to go to the library, to...
Well, let me ask you this, Raquel.
If
you were in a position of power and you could change one thing about history taught in school, what would the one thing you would change be? What would you teach?
I would teach the connectedness of the history and the result of the history and how the events of the past resonate today. That history is not just history. History is today. History is not past. History, what's that phrase? History is not past, history is prologue. It's still here. We are still living it.
So it's interesting that you bring this up, because my second topic is about a book that I've been reading, which we can get into in a little bit. But one of the main themes of the book, and I've been talking a lot about this with the people around me in the last 2 weeks, one of the main themes of the book is called shadow work. And shadow work done personally is when you take someone like myself, Jennifer Bolaños, and you stop looking at all of the things that we deem okay, like the excessive positivity that I exude. We stop focusing on that for a moment. And then we go to this other side of our personalities, all of the things that we deem unworthy or not good or that should stay in the shadows. That's why they call it shadow work. So you look at the true history, what really happened, and you do the work based on that. And I want to talk about that for myself when we get to the book. But I've been working on that or thinking about that in regards to our country, the United States of America. We're in this place where we're rather unhealthy right now. I think we can all agree, no matter what side of the fence we sit on, right? Democrat, Republican, independent, doesn't really matter. Human beings as a whole, we can deem that we're kind of unhealthy right now. So if we celebrate Juneteenth and we celebrate 4th of July, and I'm in no way comparing those two holidays, but we celebrate whatever it is that we celebrate about our country. We say, oh, we're the land of the free. We're the big melting pot. That's what we were taught in school, right? That we were the big melting pot. So whatever it is we celebrate about the country, these things that we deem as positive, and that's all we focus on, the sickness within us grows. And in order to become whole and integrated, all those positive things are still positive. We're not taking those away. Those are still, there are some things that make the United States of America a great country, a beautiful country. If you do not acknowledge the shadow side, and the shadow side, in my opinion, of the United States of America is just what you're talking about, Raquel, is the unacknowledged history. The truth of the fact, and I don't know, I'm not a history buff, I don't know this, but so this is just like a general me talking. But if we had real experts come on and they told us the history of the indigenous people who lived in our lands before we were here, and then our settlers who came in, and I'm speaking for the white people right now, and our settlers who I would call colonizers, who came in and colonized the land, but then also who brought slaves from other lands. And I don't know the whole history. I wasn't taught it. I'm trying to learn it. But all of these things that truly happened, like the genocide, the rape, the pillaging, the in the families that were built, some good stuff happened too, but a lot of really what I would call shadow stuff of our country. How we sort of in a big bang way of saying it, how we raped this country, right? We raped this country. So around the shadow work, in order to release it, you have to acknowledge it. You have to say that we did it. We raped the country. Then you have to feel the anger around that. You have to do your rage work. Rage, rage, rage. I'm just talking about this right now, but if we really feel it, there's a lot of fucking rage collectively. There's rage with indigenous people. There's rage with Black people. There's even rage with white people. There's rage in this country, rage about what has happened, what we have done, what we have become part of. You have to admit and acknowledge the rage, because until you work through it, you can't integrate your shadow and your bright. And when you integrate your shadow and your bright, you can create new. You can create beautiful, exceptional, new, a place for everyone. And then you can become a whole country, whole, with love. And that's shadow work. And I've been thinking about this because of what you said about not being willing to teach our history because we don't want people to feel bad about it. That's also a projection. We're not saying little kids should feel bad about it, but you think they should because you feel bad about it and you won't acknowledge it. And that's why you're projecting that. If you would allow yourself to be like, oh, that was bad. We did a bad thing. And I'm not saying me and you, we weren't even born. We weren't part of it, but we hold it in ourselves. It was It was our ancestry. We hold it in our bodies, in our cells. It's at a cellular level in our country.
Yes.
Every single person who walks on this earth has been affected by it. We need to acknowledge it. And that's where we're stuck. And my thoughts on that, and this is just me again, reading books and thinking things. I'm no expert, but my thoughts on that are, until we do that, we are not free.
No.
And if I'm not free, you're not free. And if you're not free, your neighbor's not free. And
Right.
that's just the way it is, people. We're not free in this country.
People don't put enough stock in that.
We are holding on to collective grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are holding on to it, collective grief.
Mhm.
And we could just, you know what my daughter said? I was talking to her about this earlier, my young one. I was telling her this whole thought process I've been having around this shadow work with the country. The country needs to go through shadow work. She said, Mom, I want you to go back to Atlanta, and I want you and Raquel to go to a rage room together and have someone film it. And then the two of you just like keep throwing out all the stuff you're talking about, and then beat the hell out of stuff. Because a rage room, you get to go in there and destroy things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, I want to see you guys just get fucking mad as hell. Well, she didn't say fucking because she's my 16-year-old, but that's what she meant. She said, Mom, I want you to get mad. I want you to destroy stuff. And I want you to film it. And then I want you guys to put that on as a special YouTube episode. It doesn't have to be a podcast, but a special YouTube where we can watch you two just work your rage out. Do you know how healing? That is a healing thing. And that's kind of what we need to do as a country, but not, but I can't really say a controlled rage, because you can't tell people how they can or cannot rage. That's like telling people how they can or cannot protest, right?
But people do that all the time.
But
rage is policed all the time.
I know. And what I'm saying is we cannot tell people how they, we need to collectively rage so that we can collectively heal. And until we are allowed, more so until we allow ourselves to collectively rage, I just don't know how we're going to get there. And I will tell you, when I go protesting, some of that rage comes out, and so it does help. I think that's another thing about protesting that does help. Just screaming, like using my voice and saying, what did we say at the last one? We said, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. Just doing that like releases some of that rage.
It's a physical release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to do a rage room?
Yeah. Yeah. Rage.
No, I mean, I think she's onto something. And you know, when you think about how we're raised as little girls, to totally get on another subject, I was talking to my kids today about how I made some mistakes in raising them, because, okay, so you're in the grocery store and you got two little kids with you, right? And one of them falls on the ground and throws a temper tantrum. What do? You like, get your butt up and you get in the car and you don't say another word. Shut your mouth. Right? That's what we do, because we are embarrassed that our kid is not under our control and behaving like they should in the grocery store. But what we are teaching them is it's not okay to express your emotions.
Okay, I will admit, as a person who does not have children, I was in IKEA yesterday. I'm just minding my own business, trekking through IKEA, getting stuff. And some kid somewhere,
they do. That's what kids do.
Was screaming bloody murder. My first reaction was, dear baby Jesus, please let this kid's parents shut that kid up, please. Oh God. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, but there are ways, Raquel. Remember when we were talking about me working with Gabby when she was little, and putting her on my lap and looking her in the eye and saying, what is it that you need? There are ways. That's really hard to do in the middle of a grocery store.
Oh, I'm sure. So is it your turn now or mine? I forget.
Shall we talk about the book?
Yes. What's the name of the book? I'm going to write this down.
I have to say, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
That this is the absolute book I've ever read in my life. And I have read a lot of books. And this is called Revolution of the Soul. It's written by Sean Korn. The reason I got this book is Gabby and I went to a local bookstore when they were doing a support your local bookstore event, and they were giving away books that were unedited versions.
Yeah.
There were tons of books out. I looked at this book. I didn't pick it up. I walked around the table 4 or 5 times. I kept coming back to it. I finally took it. I took this and 2 other books. I decided to read it the other day. I know books hit people differently for different reasons, but this book rocked my soul.
Wow.
Yeah. And I say that as someone who calls themselves an atheist, right? So when Raquel and I were in Atlanta not too long ago, we were walking down the street and my daughter was doing an art fair. And I put my hands together and I looked up at the sky and I said, oh God, please let her sell some stuff. Right? You remember that, Raquel?
Yeah.
And Raquel said to me, Jennifer, you're not an atheist. You just prayed. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to tell you right now my top 3 favorite books of my life. Number 1 is Revolution of the Soul by Sean Corn.
Wow.
Number 2 is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And the third one is called Conversations with God. And I believe it was written by Neil David Walsh. I might have his name not quite right, but
I think Neil Donald Walsh, I think was his name.
Neil Donald Walsh. As you might know, all 3 of those books are about God. So for someone who's an atheist, I read an awful lot of stuff about God. So this book helped me to kind of come to terms with that. And it's actually a little bit hard for me to admit because I like being seen as an atheist.
Why?
I know. I just like the word. I like controversy. This is probably why I'm not fit for the school board, right? Now I'm going to talk about something really hard. So that was a big thing, was the God thing. But the second thing was the shadow work stuff. And she talks about the shadow work stuff a lot earlier in the book before she talks about God all through it. But for me, it kind of all came together at the end. But when she starts on the yoga mat, having her first experiences with shadow work, she's doing a very long pigeon pose in yoga. And for people who don't know what that is, that's a hip opener. For me, it's very hard. She says it's easy for her. They say in yoga that the hips are an area of the body that holds trauma and grief and unprocessed emotions. And when you hold a pose for a very long time, it can be strenuous on the muscles, but it can also be releasing of the emotions. In this particular reading of hers, she's doing this long pose and her mind is going everywhere, like mine does when I'm trying to do meditation. She's thinking about, what am I cooking for dinner? What am I going to do tomorrow? Oh, somebody said this to me. It's just going everywhere. And then all of a sudden, she starts having visions of being 6 years old, visions of lying face down and having her uncle assault her physically. She's a 6-year-old. And so she has this vision and she just sobs it out on the mat. And I've seen people do that in yoga class and I've cried on the mat before. She sobs it out. And this is the beginning of her shadow work, which she does a lot more around this issue. But it's her acknowledgement of her assaults and the fact that her little 6-year-old body was assaulted and all of the grief and fear and anger that she's held in her body all these years. And so the resulting shadow work is about feeling that fear, anger, assault, feeling it so that your body can release it. And that's what I'm talking about for the country as well. Feeling it and acknowledging it so that we can release it and move forward in a more compassionate and loving way. Okay, so what I'm about to tell you is the work that I've been doing. As I'm reading this, I have some memories of my own. When I was in high school, I was a freshman. I woke up and my stepbrother was in my room with his hands down my pants. Yeah. And I didn't know, just like her, the way she described it, I think this is why this book was so powerful to me, because the way she described it, my heart is beating while I'm telling you this now. I was I was sound asleep, and I woke up but I'm in my own bed, in my own room, in my place that's my safe place. And I have this person, he was also a boy, you know, older than me, but a boy in high school. He was probably, he was probably a junior, which would make him 16. So I was probably 14. He was in my room with his hands in my pants, checking things out.
Oh,
Right.
no.
So I woke up, but I couldn't move. I was so shocked, scared. I think just unbelievable. Like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this is happening. Like, I couldn't move. I couldn't move for several seconds, maybe what felt like 5 minutes to me. And that my mind is reeling, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I didn't say a word. I just laid there. And then finally I pretended like I woke up, which shocked him. And then he just sat in the chair in my room. And I got up and I went upstairs. But when I went upstairs, there was nowhere for me to go. Like, where was I supposed to go? So I went upstairs and I sat in the living room. I sat in a chair and I just stared out into the living room. I was pretending like I was watching TV. And then he came upstairs and he goes, can you go away? I'm trying to watch TV. And I was like, okay. So I got up and I went back downstairs and I went to sleep. And I never told anybody. I never told anybody. I never told my mom. I never told my stepdad. I never told my stepsister. I never told my brother. I never told anybody until in fact, I honestly kind of forgot about it. You know, you never forget. But I actually kind of suppressed it so much that I never thought about it, that I spent most of my adult life being nice to this person.
Oh my goodness.
Because he was my stepbrother. And I spent most of my adult life being nice to this person. And I fucking hate him. I fucking hate everything he stands for. But I have never felt my rage. And so what I'm going to be working on in the next couple of weeks is raging on it. I'm going to feel every bit of the fucking violated rage that I feel, because I think it has fucked me up in all of my relationships. It has fucked me up. It has made me act in ways that I wouldn't have acted. It has made me devalue myself in ways that I wouldn't have devalued myself. And it's his fucking fault. Right? So this is the rage work I'm talking about. So equate that to our country, to our history. People, can you get this? Can you hear this? You suppress it, but it affects everything you do. It affects the laws that you create. It affects the way you treat people. It affects the beliefs that you have. It makes you do things to hold on to your privilege so that you can go on pretending that these things never happened. But it still affects everything you do. That's it. I did it. I said it out loud publicly.
I am proud of you for saying it out loud,
this is the best fucking book I've ever read.
For acknowledging it, for confronting it, for starting to do the rage work and letting yourself go through that pain so that you can heal and move forward. Thank you. I'm honored that you feel comfortable enough to share that.
Do you want to know what I feel right now?
What do you feel?
I feel like a huge brick is gone.
Oh, that's so good.
And I'd like to smash his fucking head with it.
There you go. And I would help you.
I hate him. I do hate him, but I pity his fucking soul because I know he's so fucked up. You just have to be so fucked up to do such a vile thing. It's so vile. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've had something disgusting happen to me at the hands of a man. I can't tell you how many times. I had a massage at the mall and he was massaging my back. And as I was, you're kind of leaned over on that thing. Yeah. I felt him start to rub his penis on the back side of me. And here's where men are like, well, why don't you tell? Why don't you do something? We are conditioned to question ourselves. We're conditioned to think that. So here I am, he's rubbing his penis on the back of my back while he's giving me a massage. And I'm thinking, no, that can't be right. He's not really doing that. I'm just imagining that, right? Even though I know damn well I can feel it on the back of my legs. I know what he's doing. This is how bad it is. I didn't say a word. I got up, I paid him, I tipped him, and I left. And I didn't acknowledge that the man rubbed his penis up and down the back of my legs while he was giving me a paid massage.
Oh, God.
I should have told him to stop, get the fuck off of me, and I should have reported him. But I never did that. I never did it because I thought, oh, you're making that up in your head. That didn't really happen. I know damn well it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there are countless things like that happen to women and girls.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to get on this subject, but it's just, people are always like, well, why didn't she tell? Why didn't she do something? Because we're taught to be nice.
Yeah.
I'm so nice, I tipped the fucker for it.
Yeah. Ugh.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Society does so many things to fuck up women. It's just
men too.
Well, yeah, men too.
I think it's just like these things that we don't talk about. Like Sean in her book was talking about how there was a really well-known yoga instructor. He was considered a master. And when she was watching him correct people in yoga poses, she felt like he was rubbing his body on their bodies. And she was like watching it. Same thing. She was thinking in her head, this can't be right. He's a master. He's the leader. She said something to a couple friends and they said back to her, oh no, you're misinterpreting that. He's just correcting their poses. And then he did it to her. And he did it to her 3 times before she finally was like, no, this isn't right. And she finally said, stop. Because we are conditioned to question ourselves.
We're conditioned to not trust ourselves in so many ways.
Yeah, and to hear the voice that says, no, he's an expert. He wouldn't be doing that. That's just part of the technique. He can't help it that he rubs his penis up and down the back of your back while he's rubbing your shoulders. That's just part of the technique, right? So that's why it's my favorite book, because I think I was at my next level of healing and it kind of brought it ushered it in.
It's bringing things up for you.
Yeah. I don't know if the book would do that for everyone, but that's what it did for me.
Good. Well, obviously you're at a point now where you feel safe enough to do that work.
Your topic.
Okay. This is one that, granted, I could do some reading on it. I could do some research on it, and I do plan to, because I don't know all of the history behind this particular institution, but I want to learn more. This is something that I've thought about before, but in recent days, it's been top of mind. Why the Supreme Court justices have lifetime appointments. I don't understand that. I need to do some reading around it. I can say right now what I do know, which isn't little. I maybe know more than the average bear about the Supreme Court, but I don't like that they have lifetime appointments. I just don't like that at all. I don't like it. And I don't think that my view of that changes based on who the president is or I don't think that there should be any lifetime appointments in this country. As a country formed because we were leaving a monarchy, which is a lifetime appointment. And why in the hell did we structure the Supreme Court so that it was a lifetime appointment? That is one thing about the Supreme Court that I don't know and I don't understand. And I will do the research, but if there's anybody out there who knows and is an expert on the Supreme Court and can give me some background on that, I would really appreciate that. And if somebody has a differing opinion than mine and thinks that it's a good idea that they have lifetime appointments and that continue, and can express that in a non-problematic in a respectful way, then please, I want to hear this, because right now I'm having a very hard time with the fact that these people are on the Supreme Court for the rest of their fucking lives. They are not in touch with society as it is. They are so removed. They are held on this pedestal, and it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, it also doesn't make sense to me that there are all of these, I saw a statistic the other day that, I mean, maybe something like only 7% of our congressional representatives are under the age of 40. Only 7%. The rest of them are old white guys. The Supreme Court, yeah, there's some younger members on there now, and yes, there's some women. And soon Ketanji Brown Jackson's going to be on there, and she's a black woman. I think she's maybe younger than us, not by much, but she's about our age, maybe. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what the rationale is behind it, and all I can see is that there's a level of power that now exists, and maybe always has existed, in the Supreme Court, that seems out of balance and out of sync with the whole idea of the system of checks and balances that our government is, at least in name only, or at least in the very beginning, was set up, or
I don't disagree.
Was based upon.
I don't disagree, Raquel. I think you have a very valid point. The only thing that I could think of, because I don't know how it works, maybe we need to do some research, is that it takes that long for a judge to become that high. I mean, they have to go through how many?
Well, but here's the thing, is that they're getting younger and younger. Brett Kavanaugh, he's younger than us. He's
also a
maybe, well, yeah, he's a giant jackass douchebag. He's maybe 45.
So
Amy
he potentially, could serve for 40 plus years.
Yeah. So,
gross.
And so that's just so disturbing. And I remember thinking this when Brett Kavanaugh was nominated, and with Amy Coney Barrett when she was nominated, that they don't have the judicial experience yet. They don't have the life experience yet, in my opinion. They don't have the wisdom that comes with age to be a justice.
That was the whole agenda. I mean, that was very calculated. Placing those three judges was so calculated.
Part of that whole fucking strategy that the Democrats and progressives need to learn from.
And that age that you're talking, 44, that's a good choice for them then, because he's going to be on there a long time.
Yeah. He could possibly be there for 50 fucking years.
And Raquel, can you remove, people are talking about getting rid of Clarence Thomas. Is it possible to remove a judge?
I think it's possible.
Has it ever happened?
I've heard some grumblings about that, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I have also heard that people are talking about trying to get rid of Clarence Thomas because he's basically,
another giant dick.
Well, yeah, he's another giant asshole. No, I'm not going to call him a giant dick, because he will hear that and think, oh, she said I have a giant dick. No, he probably only has a nubbin. Whatever. He's an asshole. I hope that there's some sort of safety valve, quote unquote, for getting rid of.
It doesn't appear that there is, and I still do not understand. And I have asked so many people. I still don't understand why President Obama could not appoint when he was in office. I just don't get that. And then people throw around, well, the Republicans barred him from doing it. How do they get to do that?
They did because they blocked it because of another thing that's very upsetting to me. because it's another relic of slavery, the fucking filibuster.
Okay, wait. How is the filibuster a relic of slavery? I haven't heard that. Explain that to me.
Okay, because essentially the filibuster was used, not initially, but it was used a lot during slavery days by Southern states trying to protect their ability to continue having slaves. There's a troubling legacy about the filibuster. And this quote says, "It has often been used to block civil rights legislation intended to combat racial discrimination." Also, it was used especially during the Jim Crow era. In fact, that was one of the primary uses of the filibuster during the 20th century.
Interesting.
The filibuster is evil and needs to be struck down.
In all of your research, did you come up with a definition of the filibuster so you can read it to our audience and explain what the filibuster is?
The filibuster it's basically a tactic. In the Senate, a filibuster is an attempt to delay or block a vote on a piece of legislation or a confirmation. Confirmation meaning getting a Supreme Court justice nomination confirmed, right?
So they use the filibuster to block that nomination by President Obama.
Yes. And it is used to block any legislation. Like, it can either be a talking filibuster or a silent filibuster. The talking filibuster is basically the person just stands up and just keeps talking and keeps talking and keeps talking to prevent the vote from happening. They just keep talking. They don't yield their time. They don't yield the floor. And they just keep talking. And in fact, Strom Thurmond, who was the senator from Virginia, I believe, big giant racist and a proud racist, by the way, performed the longest running filibuster ever. He literally stood up there and talked continuously for 24 hours. You can't take a break because that's yielding your time. Can't take a bathroom break. You can't.
So what they do? Pee in a bucket?
Maybe he just held it. I have no idea. But this is what people will do to prevent certain pieces of legislation or certain Supreme Court justice confirmations from going through. That is what the Southern states did to maintain the system of slavery. They would use the filibuster so that legislation could not be passed to end slavery.
So I still don't get it, though. Okay, so Mitch McConnell used the filibuster to stop President Obama from appointing his Supreme Justice. How did he do it? Was he standing there talking for hours on end? And then our president gave up? Or because...
Well, the vote was not allowed to happen.
Okay, that's the part I don't understand. How do they do that part?
Well, first off, because the whole filibuster thing, but also a filibuster, there's also the component of it's supposed to only be 50, but essentially it's 60 because that's just the way that it shakes out, is that you have to have a supermajority of 60 people to pass a bill through. Otherwise, if you only have 51, it can be filibustered.
And that's the silent filibuster.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have enough people to just sort of push it on through who will vote for it and say yay, as opposed to nay, then it won't go through. It's way more complicated than what I am addressing. We need somebody who's an expert to talk about it because it is very complicated, but it has a very complicated history. The complicated history and the legacy of it are that laws that would protect people who look like me and people who look like you're a woman, laws that would protect us and laws that would protect your daughters because they are biracial. Those laws, a lot of them have been blocked by the use of the filibuster. Because so much filibustering has happened, and because there's been a chilling effect of the filibuster that people just don't even bother to do anything, basically, and because it prevents so many things from happening in the Congress, that so much power now rests in the hands of the Supreme Court, because it's not getting done in Congress, it's not getting done with legislation. So legal cases are just being argued and brought higher and higher and higher to the point that they get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is agreeing to hear certain cases and then ruling upon them. So they're essentially making law as opposed to doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, the laws are supposed to be made in Congress. That's where legislation is supposed to come from. The Supreme Court now has too much power because not enough is getting done in Congress. The checks and the balances are way out of whack. It's not happening. Things are completely out of balance because we get taught shit in civics class, and because we aren't taught how all this shit is connected and how it affects our actual day-to-day lives, we don't understand all of it. We don't understand all of it. And kids, I don't even think kids are taught how government works anymore. A certain segment of society wants that to be the norm, because if you don't have an informed electorate, it's much easier to pull the wool over their eyes, follow you around, and do whatever the fuck you want them to do.
So I have another question about this. You said that when these cases are in the lower courts and they go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can decide or not whether they're going to hear the case. Mm-hmm. And in this recent case, that's why Roe versus Wade got overturned, was because of the case that they heard. But what if they said no to overhearing it? Does it then put it back into the state Supreme Court?
It pushes it back to the lower courts. Yeah.
So
and then the lower courts either uphold the decision or it can be appealed. So they don't have to hear every case. In fact, they don't hear every case that somebody tries to present before them.
So if this recent case hadn't gone to the Supreme Court, Roe versus Wade would have stood, and then the state could have ruled the way that they ruled.
They could have, yes. Yeah.
Okay. There was a case recently ruled on by the Supreme Court that really affects Indigenous life in this country, but yet we're not hearing a whole lot about that. We have talked a lot and rallied a lot and fought a lot about Roe versus Wade, but we don't see anything about this. This is just as much a crime against humanity. I'm a white woman, so I'll call myself out first. We have separated ourselves out. We're willing to go and fight for Roe versus Wade, but we didn't fight for that. And in some cases, we didn't fight to stand up with Black Lives Matter. We either are in the fight or we're not in the fight.
We're not taught that we're all connected. We're not taught that my life impacts yours and vice versa. We're not taught that. Or if somebody does talk about that kind of thing, it's just, oh, that person's just so woo-woo. Oh, kumbaya, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
It's all poo-pooed.
But if we're talking about God, like, I'm an atheist. Okay, I'm formally saying I'm no longer an atheist. I'm woo-woo. God is the connection. We are all connected because the universal life force that is God is what connects us all.
Or spirit, or
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The media only shows us a little bit of what's going on in the world.
Right.
Right. Especially here in the country, in the US. So the fact that we even heard that little bit about that case, that's huge. It sucks. It's only a tiny bit, but that's a huge jump forward, because
But Raquel, it
years ago,
was, I didn't hear about it from the
No,
media. I heard it from TikTok creators who are indigenous themselves, making sure that white people like me hear about what's happening to them.
right. And I hear that. I didn't hear about it on TikTok. I heard a tiny blurb on some news show, but it was a tiny blurb, tiny, like maybe 10 seconds, if that, maybe 15. Thankfully, those indigenous creatives are putting the message out there, and you as a consumer are consuming it and spreading it forward. So good on you, good on them. That's awesome. The platform exists for them to do that. But what I'm saying is that our media, I mean, everybody, journalists in general, should be covering this. That is a huge piece of legislation. It should be covered. But there's so many things in our country that we don't hear about, because even though we have a 24-hour news cycle now, and there's platforms aplenty, we only hear about maybe 3 to 5 topics.
And they churn it and churn it and churn it and churn it.
With there being so much time and being so many, and there's so many platforms, there should be other topics that are being covered. And
yeah, like everything the Supreme Court rules on, we should know about.
It is, unfortunately, it is incumbent upon us as individuals to seek out this information. You went on TikTok, you specifically follow indigenous creatives so you can find this information. I specifically listen to podcasts that talk about what the Supreme Court of the United States is doing. And even on those, granted, yes, they're very enlightening and they go into a lot of detail, and I appreciate it and I love it. But even then, they only have enough time to hit so many things.
How many things does the Supreme Court rule on in a given time frame?
I don't know.
I got a million questions just like that.
Yeah. It would be so great to do an episode just on the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Do you want to read another one of your public service announcements?
Yes, I do. We want to take a moment to address the June 24th, 2022 Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This decision stripped away the right to have a safe and legal abortion. Everyone should have the freedom to decide what's best for themselves and their families, including when it comes to ending a pregnancy. This decision has dire consequences for individual health and safety and could have harsh repercussions for other landmark decisions. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. Learn more by visiting podvoices.help. If you're able to support others, please consider donating to abortion funds. We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word.
Excellent. I feel like I've talked about everything that was on my agenda. What was your third one?
It kind of goes back to the whole thing of we should have been fighting to support Roe from the very beginning. And I've been hearing a lot of things in the news lately, which kind of chaps my ass. I wish they would stop harping on it. People saying, well, I voted once and it didn't change anything. Or I went to one protest and it didn't change anything. Or I voted in the last 2 presidential elections and look where we are. Nothing's changing. In fact, it's getting worse, blah, blah, blah. That attitude of giving up far too soon chaps my ass, and it's got to stop. I don't know if it's, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know where that attitude comes from, because I think people who are in the fight, people who've been in the fight for whatever right that they're fighting for, whether it's abortion access, healthcare, education, trans rights, women's rights, Black Lives Matter, all of it. People in those fights know that it is a long road. And even if you achieve the thing that you set out to achieve, you don't stop. You have to then support it. You have to keep proving that it's necessary and that it still has support and that you still need the thing that you fought for. So I don't understand where these people are coming up with, oh, I voted that one time and it didn't work. Oh my God, is an issue that disposable to you? Are rights that disposable to you? Do you really not care enough about something that you're like, oh, it didn't happen immediately, so it doesn't matter? People need to stop giving up. Look at civil rights, for God's sake. We're still having to fight for civil rights. Black people still have to fight for civil rights. If we had stopped with just the end of slavery, sweet Jesus, this will be a totally different world than it is right now. But if we don't keep fighting, things will keep rolling back. It doesn't happen overnight. And I'm so fucking frustrated with people who are crying like, oh, it didn't happen overnight, so I'm going to stop fighting. Shut the fuck up. Grow a pair, for God's sake. Suck it up, put on your armor, and get back to it. Take a minute if you have to rest. Yes, rest is necessary. But damn it, quit crying in your Kool-Aid about it and get back to it. Freaking the religious right has been plotting for 50 fucking years to overturn Roe. And people are like, I voted once and it didn't work. We have shit to do. The rights and the privileges that we have, that we enjoy, these can be taken away. Just the fact that, and I don't think people think about it. This goes back to, we don't know our fucking history. For the longest time, women couldn't get a driver's license. Women couldn't vote. Women couldn't have their own bank accounts. Women couldn't buy their own fucking houses. People, this could all get taken away.
Why do you think that is, that they didn't want women to have a driver's license or to learn to read or to go to school or to have a vote?
Then we would have control over our own lives, and we possess a power that they are fucking afraid of, and they want to stay in control. They don't want to share. And by they, we all know, we mean straight white men.
I don't know. I don't think it's all straight white men, Raquel.
Well, it's not all straight white men, but
no, I disagree with that. I think when you said the religious right, I was there with you there. I don't think straight white men want women not to be able to vote.
Not all of them. God, no. Not all of them. No. What are you getting at that I'm missing?
Religious extremists, maybe?
Yes. Religious extremists. Yes.
I mean,
thank you for correcting me on that.
If you're walking down your average neighborhood and you've got single people, you've got couples, you've got families, you've got kids, and you're in all different races, etc. I would say the majority of the men don't want to take away women's rights. Some of them may have some feelings about abortion or non-abortion, so they might want to take away some rights. But here's the thing. The majority of the people in the United States are against the Roe versus Wade decision, right? They're against it.
Overturning the decision.
That's what I mean. Thanks for clarifying. But it's this small extremist group that's been plotting and planning that have power that doesn't match their numbers. There are less of them. It's not white American men. And yes, some of them are part of that group for sure.
Right. You're right.
But there are women in that group that are voting to take away our power. There are white women in that group. There are. I
don't understand people who are voting and supporting legislation
because they're indoctrinated.
Oh, I know.
Raquel, I just read an article today about a town in Florida on the border a woman who's married to, she's from Mexico. She was married to a member of the Border Patrol, which seems to be quite common, actually. And they are voting Republican based on the fact that it follows their religious values. It follows their religious values. They believe they are, because of their extreme religion, they are anti-LGBTQ issues. They don't believe in rights for trans. We're talking about Florida here. And they definitely don't believe in the right to the health care that includes abortion for women. So that's why some people are voting. It is not just white American men. We cannot say that.
You're right.
There are lots of white American. I was really surprised at the protest that I went to in Lansing on the Capitol steps, how many men were out there protesting for rights of women. There were so many. It was the first time in my life I was like, oh, here they are. Thank you. Now, I wish more of them would speak out publicly, but they were there. They were there.
Yeah.
And I can hear you're real passionate about this. It is so upsetting, but I don't believe it's the majority.
No. You're right. My passion about this and upset about it is that there's so many people who are like, oh, it's just one and done and everything will be okay. It's flipping a switch and overnight it's okay.
I think that is something that stems from that word privilege that people don't like to talk about a lot. We live in a society that I don't know if it's a classist privilege or if it's a racial privilege or maybe a combination of where those two things intersect, a privilege of not really having to pay very much attention to these issues in the past. This is the first one that kind of like hits home a little harder and makes people uncomfortable. And now they're like, oh, but I protested. It should all be over. And they haven't been in it for the long haul. It's a privilege concept.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hear it from so many people.
I was asking you the other day, I said, what does protesting do?
Yeah.
I asked you, but I learned a few things that protesting does in the past week. Number one, I met a woman who said to me, she said, years ago, I would have never come to this protest because I didn't think that other people felt the way that I did. And I don't have a strong voice and I feel shy. But then I saw you and your kids out here. And then I thought, okay, I can bring my kids. Okay. So that's something. You become someone other people can relate to. And they say, oh, if she can do it, I can do it. And then number two, when we were in Lansing, we were all on the Capitol steps when the 4th of July parade was supposed to start. And all these people ran down. I went down and actually filmed it. Protesters were here and they were screaming, no celebration for forced procreation. It was the 4th of July. The parade was supposed to start. I actually felt a little sorry for those 6 police officers because they looked rather tiny in between the parade and all those protesters. It looked scary to me. The woman who organized the march came down and said, no, we're not here to stop the parade. Stop it. But the protesters wouldn't go. They were like, no parade, no parade. And so she went off and she talked to the police and the police came back and they dispersed the parade. All the protesters marched the route of the parade and I joined them for that. And I was doing my, chanting and stuff. And I was really excited to be there. The energy level was amazing. And one of the coolest things that happened is that a lot of the people that came down there to watch the parade cheered on the protesters. And a couple of the floats stopped in the middle and they played their music and they had their people dancing on the parade and they were protesting right along with the parade. Then we left Lansing and we came back to my little town and there was a little protest here. There was 40 people, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a bust. But it was really interesting because they brought local politicians. They talked about the laws and the platform that they were standing on. And I learned a lot in an hour about what's going on in my local area. So I don't think it's a waste of time. And yes, it takes a long time.
It does.
I'm not hearing people say that it should have changed overnight, but you're getting that, huh?
Yeah, it's, I hear a lot of it on the news. I hear a lot of it from people who, are still apathetic. It's maddening to me and it's heartbreaking that there are people who will give up so easily.
Raquel, what will happen if they give up?
If they give up, so many rights that we take it for granted will go away. If we don't continue fighting right now for what we do currently have, which is that, abortion is still legal in some states. If we don't continue to fight for that, and if we don't continue to fight for federal protections and codifying a person's access to abortion care and vote in the midterms to ensure that there are enough people in office who will support people's rights to access to abortion and the resulting health care, then it could turn out that if we end up with Republicans having control of Congress, and then we end up with a Republican anti-choice president in 2024, they could pass a federal national law that completely restricts abortion. That is what we need to keep in mind. Keep our eyes on the prize. It's not done. There's more to do.
What's a midterm election? What does it mean?
The midterm election is because there are different term limits for different seats in Congress. And so some seats come up for re-election in an off year, meaning a non-presidential election year. So that's what's happening this year in November, is that there are a lot of states that have elections for those positions. And a lot of those positions they're hotly contested. I know people get tired of hearing this, but pretty much everything right now and from this day forward is going to be hotly contested. People need to pay attention. People need to educate themselves. People need to vote. Vote, 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 vote.
And traditionally, do people vote at the midterms compared to like a presidential year?
People generally do not. The numbers fall off so dramatically. That's what Republicans count on, is that, Democrats don't vote during midterms. They don't vote during off years. Well, so guess what? We're going to get all our people out and we'll vote and we'll win because we just won by sheer numbers.
So Republicans Democrats vote midterms, Democrats don't?
Not in the same numbers.
Why?
I don't know.
We're not organized.
Yes, there's that. Yes.
We're not organized and we don't strategize. And that's why I'm very proud of these women from Milan that are strategizing every single seat that's open. That is what we need to do.
There's an organization called Plan Your Vote that will help you basically do just that. Figure out what seats are up for election in your city, in your district, in your state, so that then you know what you need to keep in mind when November rolls around, so that you can then go vote in these elections and you have a plan and you have the knowledge that you need about the candidates and about referenda that are being put on the ballot. And a lot of times they're worded in a very confusing way on purpose.
Yeah.
To confuse people. Visit Plan Your Vote.
Yeah. There's a lot at stake.
Yeah, a lot.
That's why you're passionate about this. There's a lot at stake.
Yeah. My independence as a free woman, as a free Black woman, is at stake. And I don't think I'm being alarmist in saying that. When Trump got elected in 2016, I made the comment that for the first time in my life, I felt like I knew how my mom felt, how my grandma felt, how my uncle felt, how all of my family members of older generations felt. That I felt like there was a bullseye on my back and I was no longer safe in the country that I call home.
That says a lot.
I feel that way again now. In fact, I've not stopped feeling that since then.
Yeah.
And I want people to wake the fuck up. I don't want to keep feeling this.
A friend of mine told me that he felt that when the two of us talk and we just talk about what's on our mind, that it gets very raw, that our podcast is very raw and it's very real. And I took that as a huge compliment. I honestly feel that that's the best work that we do. And it is the biggest activism that we could potentially do for ourselves and for our country. And I really firmly believe in this whole idea of acknowledging our shadow sides and the shadow sides of our country. And I also really struggle with, how do we protest and fight for our rights and have it be it's going to sound hokey, people, but have it be a loving spiritual practice so that we can bring healing rather than separation. I want us to have connectedness rather than separation.
Just by the fact of what you said about the protest that you went to recently, where that woman came up to you and said, I saw you here with your kids.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But I think we need to not think that it's always going to be sunshine and rainbows.
No.
Love is hard. Love is hard. Love is not easy. And loving this country enough to not let it go to shit.
Yes. Thank you, Raquel. That's what I needed to hear. Yes.
Love is hard, but it is worth the work, and we have to continue to do it.
You want to read the final piece?
Yes. Hi, everybody. We want to take a moment to address the June 24th Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This decision stripped away the legal right to have a safe and legal abortion. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. This decision could also lead to the loss of other rights. To learn more about what you can do to help, go to podvoices.help. We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word. Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.